I would hear in some portions of it that it would sound a bit robotic if I had the AI too high. So then I would have to mess with the percentages a bit.
You didn't seem to struggle with at all was authenticity and being yourself.
Don't aim for perfection, aim for progress. Just in full tears, but it made great content because it gave a glimpse into what I was speaking about. I'm not just talking about this because I just did the research on it. I'm talking about it from personal experience as well.
You put yourself out there in a way that many people often don't.
So I called the UTSA TimelyCare and they have 24-hour people that are on call. Someone called me within like 5 minutes. I was able to explain what was happening. And she's really the one that told me, she's like, just do an episode for yourself. It's just, you're putting the bar so high that you can't reach it right now. Just lower it down so you can practice. Practice on the ground. Having someone else to talk to, whether it's friends, family, health resources, that definitely helps me a lot.
Georgina, welcome to the show. So happy you're here. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your show.
I've always liked being creative, whether it was singing or acting. I never really acted in any plays, but I loved drawing. I loved creative things. I just like seeing how things were made from start to finish. So I always dived into different creative endeavors. I did fashion design, photojournalism. I did my AV class, did choir for a bit. I played violin for a few years just because I want to be like a jack of all trades. And I always found how something started from nothing and became a sound, started from nothing, became a dress, started from nothing, became this whole musical production. I've always been fascinated by things like that. So when it came down to creating a podcast, I thought, what a great way to get to know how other creatives dived into their creativity. But then I'm also really into mindfulness. I practice yoga pretty often. It really helped me a lot through 2020. So I dived into kind of creating a space where I can blend how people feel their creativity while also finding a way to be mindful in their creative lives, because sometimes creativity can be a hobby or it can be a profession, or it's something that really has to come from your mind. So I know not everyone's mind is at peace at all times. So the way that they find that balance in the midst of creativity and the chaos of life, I think that would be a good mesh. So that's where I came up with Creative Conversations.
And in the creation of the show, at the very beginning, when you were trying to figure out what your passions were and what you really wanted to do for your show, it sounds like it was easy because you knew what you were into. Or was it a struggle?
It was kind of easy. I use ChatGPT often in the sense of asking for advice. So it kind of knows some like background things about me. I've definitely used it to make a Tinder bio or two. So it has some of my like personal things that I'm into already. So I was like, I really want to create a podcast based off of some topics that I'm interested in and I could talk about for hours. Like, can you give me some suggestions? And it gave me a couple of prompts and I'd pick a prompt and I was like, that kind of falls in line with something, but what if I added this to it? So I kind of used it as a base point and added my own flair to it to make it more original to me. But then it also still had that like algorithm of my likes and things.
I know a lot of people struggle with trying to make something that other people would be interested in. How did you balance the tension between what you wanted to do and what the market might want to listen to?
The tension between that was if anybody is a consumer or anybody wants to tap into something that's original to themselves, I think everybody can benefit from mindfulness. Everyone can benefit from mindfulness. Everyone can benefit from learning how people do different things. Because I don't think you even have to just be a creative to know how somebody works with their creative process and the things that they do. I knew it would still stand out because I've never really seen anything like that on the market. Like I'll see influencers interviewing influencers, but then they don't really talk about the things that they do. And this is like, okay, how do you get into this process? They talk about how you formed from the beginning to make that process and how you go about life now, but it's never really about the work. So I wanted to make something that was about the work, about the artist, and then the mind of the artist. So everyone can see how different personalities also are just really regular people in the end of the day that just still find a way to make things extraordinary.
And you had an extraordinary journey at times because you had some struggles.
I did. Throughout this podcast, whenever I created a theme, I didn't only want it to be for me, but then when I looked more into it, although I did choose it from like a list of prompts, I don't know if it was fate or destiny that I added in that mindfulness feature, because adding in that mindfulness feature, instead of it just being things about the creative process, but also how mindfulness practices can fuel your creative process and benefit whenever your creative process is being blocked. I realized in the midst of doing that, I suffer from it pretty often. And I've actually suffered from it for a long, long time. Whenever it came time to sit down and record, I'm the producer, host, and director. I'm sitting here and I'm recording, and I'm just like, no, that's not it. No, that's not right. I'm just like, my creative process is all over the place. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, this is how I want it to be. This is how it's going to come out. And I'd sit and I'd freeze, or I'd sit and I'd go through it. I'd get upset, be like, okay, that's not it. Scrap it. I felt like whenever someone has a canvas, new canvas, new canvas, new canvas. And I struggled with that pretty often with this.
I think you're not alone because the critic is always loud in our minds, especially when we're trying to be creative, we're trying to experience or create new things. How did you overcome that inner critic?
It wasn't easy. Definitely wasn't easy. Definitely broke down a couple of times. But in the midst of me breaking down, I knew that it still had to be done. Just knowing that it had to be done, and then also knowing that it's like I had the full capability of doing it. It did take me reaching out to some resources, just somebody to talk me out of my own head, because it was only me, myself, and I. And I felt like it was this part of my brain yelling at this part of my brain. My heart was like, just, you got it, you got it. My brain's like, this isn't right. So I had to find someone that was a good medium to bring me down to center. Definitely did some meditation practices, some breathing, went for a walk, came back, and I just put it all out with no standards, no expectations. I was like, okay, let me just sit down, put this out here. And it's like, I don't have to upload it. I don't have to do this. This is a draft. This is just a draft. Let me play around with the editing, see how I like it. And then it's like, you know what? I can do it. I did it this way. Let me just do it again, just a bit better. And that was something that was able to make me more comfortable instead of just trying to do everything one shot and go. Just don't aim for perfection, aim for progress.
Aim for progress, not perfection is a common refrain in our creative lives. What did you see other people struggling with? And did you see some commonalities in the peer reviews where others were struggling with the similar things that you were struggling with?
I definitely did when it came down to the times that everyone else was submitting as well. I was just so stagnant in progress, seeing that they still were finding ways to put the stuff out there, even though it's like, yeah, prop up your camera, talk about what you want to talk about. It seems cut and dry, but to see that it wasn't so cut and dry for my other classmates did make it a lot more personable and just like, okay, I'm not alone in this.
In your creating of show topics, did you struggle with which topics and subtopics to go deeper on in your podcast?
My first 2 episodes were interviews, so those are kind of easy to navigate from. He's like, origin story, creative process, mindfulness. How do you balance it all? That was my structure when it came down to interviews. But when it came down to solos, that was an interesting process because, okay, how am I going to start off this topic, introduce the topic? I kind of started it kind of like a seed, and then it branches off into different roots. So we'll start off from the origin, what we're going to be talking about. Then it's like, okay, definitions, examples of it. How does this even blend into, the creative topic of things? And then how can we fix it with some mindfulness? So it's like mindfulness is always a solution at the end of the podcast. And once I made that the theme, it became a bit easier to structure things.
And I know one thing you didn't seem to struggle with at all was authenticity and being yourself. And that kind of perspective and sharing of your perspective probably made your guest feel at ease. Can you share some of the secrets to interviewing that you learned in this process?
Talk to yourself often. And whenever I was doing the interviews, I had a bit of time prior to pressing record that we were just already having a steady conversation. Not the things that I was going to be like asking on camera, but I definitely wanted it to be something that felt organic. My first 2 guests, one of them was a coworker that I kind of knew sort of well, and then the other one was an old time college friend that was my first time speaking in maybe like 2 years when I did the interview. But it definitely was something that I think made it more comfortable for an interview setup. It's like we already have a conversation flowing. And then I have my notes kind of right here so you can bounce back. So while you're answering something, I can just be like, okay, let me see how I can slide this into the conversation as well. Just so it can seem like natural and organic, but I'm just press and record.
And in your production process, did you struggle at all with editing?
Definitely did struggle with editing a bit. I had a lot of issues with sound. This is my first time using a external mic. So learning about grains and backgrounds, and there's an AC unit right outside of my balcony window. So I would hear that coming on and hear that turning off. And you're not able to hear that audio popping into your video until you're in the editing process. So messing around with sounds and cutting things and being able to match it and also use Adobe AI, the voice enhance, it's a great feature. But when I started listening to my podcast straight throughout, I would hear in some portions of it that it would sound a bit robotic if I had the AI too high. So then I would have to mess with the percentages a bit. So I had to play around with some things as far as audio. Audio definitely was a thing that I struggled with, but then was able to play around and learn more from.
Let's go back to how you were dealing with the critic and how the tools that you had maybe were enough or weren't enough, and what you did in response to that constant voice in the head that says, tear up that canvas.
At first, I think whenever I was judging how I was doing, I thought that I wasn't doing enough. I had first started off using Zoom because I have a camera, but I had no idea how to connect it to my computer. And then I had no idea how to connect that camera to this microphone. So I was like, okay, the mic is the main thing that I really need because I need the audio levels. But then when I was doing the setup with the camera, it's like everything's just looking at me and I'm not liking the visuals. It just feels like I'm recording off photo booth or something and I'm posting it. It felt good at first, but I knew it could be better. And I think in me knowing it could be better while I was recording it, I was just like, no, because I know this could be better. I know this could be better. And so that inner critic was holding me a bit stagnant, but I think for lack of better words, ignorance and not knowing what I could do to do better that was just that tug of war. So it was just like the unknown while trying to do something. So it's like nobody's going to know everything at the first, but I think my inner critic was like, you should know this. You know how to do this. This isn't something new to you. Figure it out. So my inner critic definitely it pushed me in a way, but then it's the way that I talked to myself about it. So it wasn't just like, oh, okay, this isn't what I like. How can we figure it out? It was, this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. Instead of trying to be more solution based, it was more critique.
Who would you recommend people go to if they're dealing with the same kind of thing and they can't call Georgina?
Talk to friends, talk to family. I even reached out to the UTSA TimelyCare because in the midst of it, I had like a full meltdown. I was just like, I don't know what to do. I'm really struggling mentally. And at the time, I tried calling my mom. She was out the country, couldn't answer. I don't really have any friends in my new town that I moved to. So there really wasn't anyone for me to call at that moment that would just understand, okay, why is this girl crying right now? So I called the UTSA TimelyCare and they have 24-hour people that are on call. Someone called me within like 5 minutes. I was able to explain what was happening. And she's really the one that told me, she's like, just do an episode for yourself. It sounds like you know what you're doing. You have the capability of doing it. It's just you're putting the bar so high that you can't reach it right now. Just lower it down so you can practice on the ground, and then you can start aiming for the higher floors. And so being able to talk to someone else from the outside that's like, you know what, just ground yourself. Because to the inside, we can internalize things and it can build up. And it's like, oh my God, this is fumbling. A deadline's creeping up. The deadline was starting to feel like a mountain right over me. So having someone else just be like, look, it's a little hill. Just go through it. It's okay. Having someone else to talk to, whether it's friends, family, health resources, that definitely helped me a lot.
How did it feel once you got over that hill of producing that episode that was holding you back? Did you find yourself hitting other walls and other barriers, or did it feel like a relief?
It honestly felt like a relief once I got through an entire set of notes. I started breaking things down, and once I broke it down in a way that was more easy to edit, easy for me to talk through my points from beginning to end without feeling like, ooh, I'm straying away from the beginning point. Being able to figure out, like, okay, I do have this. It wasn't so hard for me to, like, you know what, just figure it out. I just have to sit down and breathe. I had to sit down and breathe. Not everything that I'm going to do the first time works perfectly, and that's okay. My issue was not knowing that that was okay. So once I was able to do that and get through the editing process, I was like, wow, this is a breeze. I wouldn't say a breeze, but I was like, okay, I can do this.
When you were thinking about your ideal audience and your audience persona, were there certain things that maybe were unusual for you or unusual in thinking about that audience?
Definitely, because using the broad scope of creatives can be daunting because there's a lot of different creatives. Like I said, there's fashion designers. I was thinking also graphic designers, nail artists, anybody that really has to tap into something to make anything. They have all kinds of different personalities, all kinds of personalities. I can be talking to hipsters. I can be talking to tech people, business people, people that have different type personalities. So it's like, okay, putting something out there for all of these people can be pretty daunting. Some people are probably gonna be like, what is this? They're not gonna take it seriously, or some people can see it more as an entertainment. And when thinking of that, I was like, you know what? Let me just be my authentic self. Because although I am my biggest critic, I'm also my biggest fan. So I'm like, if I love it, y'all are gonna love it too.
In your audience persona data and the interviews that you did you uncover anything surprising or something that maybe you didn't expect to find in your target audience?
Whenever I made a survey and sent it out to multiple people. I also put it on my social media and I got about 60 or so responses. Whenever I saw that a lot of people, they were career driven, there wasn't too many people that were focused on mindfulness and their mental health, which was kind of surprising to me because I feel as if your mental health is really something that pushes you throughout the day. Like if you wake up and you're not feeling your best in your head, your day's going to kind of reflect that. So I seeing that there was a lack kind of propelled me more. So it was just like, okay, some people don't really know that how mindfulness can really affect your day to day and how important it really is. Like some people just like, no, I don't meditate. I don't stretch. No, I don't need to really go for a walk or whatever. They'll be like, some people take a breather and that's quick and fine, but some people don't do that at all. They just power through their days till they burn out. And me knowing that and seeing that not reflect in the survey answers, I feel like the survey answers that I got a lot of were people wanting to spend more time with their family, people wanting to have a work life balance, and then also fitness and health. That was a lot of the spaces. But then also a lot of the people that I interviewed were also people that I work with at a gym. That kind of aligns with the common likes and interest. But seeing that space, it was like, okay, it also motivated me more to enter the space that would be my target demographic. Not everyone around me that I realize is going to be my target audience. In a way to branch out to the target audience and the persona that I really wanted to build for the podcast, I kind of went away from the survey results because it didn't mesh.
Whatever you decided to not take your survey results into as large of an account in developing your show, did that have any consequences?
Would say kind of had consequences as far as a direct person to navigate to my audience. I felt as if whenever it came down to sharing the platform, that's something that I really would have to be more specific about who I'm catering to. In the process of me making the podcast and doing my research on the podcast, I did branch out to other creative hubs and other people that were creatives. I'm looking at other people's social media pages. I'm looking at the target audience that I would want to reach and what they're interested in, the things that they do. I looked at other interviews that creatives have done and see how they kind of tap into those things. Because for me, this entire situation is very original to my lifestyle, to any lifestyle of anyone around me. So I already knew in creating this that there's going to be people that wouldn't get it. So in already knowing that there's going to be people that don't get it, I didn't want to just, like I've been doing throughout it, just scrap everything because, okay, these results are matching what I want to do. I just had to stay authentic at the end of it all and still just put something out there that still catered to part of the survey results, but not everything. So my target demographic still was able to be within the age range that I was wanting. I wanted to have like career professionals that are within like 24 to like maybe like even your 40s if you're within your still working fields. Anybody that really I didn't really have a target gender for anything. I did have mixed results as far as that. But then it's like when it comes down to hobbies, the things that people were interested in, I did take into account who I sent the survey to and who was overlooking at the survey. Instead of thinking, okay, if this was international and I sent it to everyone, I would get different results. So there's things that I did take away from it and things that I did put into it that was like, okay, let me make this into a certain persona with these survey results and with what I want to make. How could I mesh it all?
And what did the metrics look like for your show?
Other than the people within our immediate class, I probably did have like close family and friends that I put it to. I was very shy about putting it out there to be publicly analyzed because it took until the 4th episode for it to be somewhere where I thought it was very presentable. So I definitely held myself back as far as having something to be analyzed and have good metrics about. For the most part, everybody that watched it was classmates, and then maybe my mom and 2 coworkers. I made them public the last week, so maybe those metrics have changed, but the only episode that was fully public was episode 3, episode 4, and then I made everything public for the last selection, so I could get those metrics. But other than that, I really didn't share it with too many people because I got through the hurdle of making it. I didn't want everyone to see me too vulnerable.
Being vulnerable is hard, and putting yourself out there is hard just in the class environment. So we do allow people to make their work unlisted and make it just for the class and just for friends or family that they want to share the link with. But we need that extra data. We need those metrics, and they can't come unless we make it public. So what advice would you give people who are in the exact same position? Would you recommend that they make things public sooner than the last day?
I would recommend making things public sooner than the last day. Like I said, I learned a lot throughout this entire course, so it did take me a bit longer to get to that consensus. But I do recommend doing it just so you can see what you're doing is productive. So it's like you're not really just doing this, just you're learning, you're putting something out there, and having the metrics can show you, okay, what parts you can learn from the metrics. Because I know we're uploading on YouTube, you can see certain parts where it's like, okay, who's viewing all the way through? What parts of the video are a bit more popular? What topics are over being watched more? So then you can cater it to your next episodes. So having those metrics can be beneficial for the longevity of it, and they can be helpful for what you want to do next.
Other advice that you have if you were going to do this class again, if you're going to start your podcast over, what other advice do you have for students who are at the beginning of their journey?
Don't feel as if you have to do everything in one take. Because I know multiple times within the instructions, you can say, yeah, it's a minimum of 20 minutes, but in that 20 minutes, it could be multiple clips. You say it can be multiple clips of things in 20 minutes. When I was struggling, I was trying to talk straight 20 minutes. And I think that's where I was messing up, trying to go straight in one take. So then halfway through the take, when I mess up, I forget what I said in the first 10 minutes because I've just been on a tangent. So something that worked for me was I got really big flashcards and I would make notes of what I would do within the podcast and how I would want things structured. I would break down each section of the notes and put them on my note card. So it's like, okay, I'm going to talk about this for like 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. That's a lot easier than talking for 20 minutes, losing your point, not being able to know how you're going to edit that without it looking really wild. It's a lot easier to edit together, 5-minute segments, 6-minute segments. Whenever I saw that, I was like, you know what? That can work for me.
Important advice to follow because the kinds of struggles of not scripting can create problems down the line with time management. When you were planning, in the planning and preparation process, were there any other things that really helped set you up for success for your show?
Lots of research. When it comes down to speaking about something, you do want to be knowledgeable about it. You don't want to just be like, okay, this is a topic, we're going to figure it out together. Already having research together, so you already know what you're talking about, you're already a bit more comfortable about speaking about it, it'll definitely make things a lot more comfortable. So doing research on the topics, having credible sources, being able to give those sources for others to look at, it builds credibility, shows that you know what you're doing, and also shows that you put in the time and effort for the topic before just like, okay, I sat down, I'm just going to talk about something so I can get something done.
That whole idea of research, I think, is often skipped over because we think of ourselves as experts in our field in our show because we've chosen it because we're so passionate about it and we know a lot about it. I think that's really good advice. Do you have any other advice about the pre-production or the post-production process?
For the pre-production process, find good lighting. Because there was multiple times I was like, okay, I played around. You're seeing the first couple of episodes. I switched settings each time just to find, I liked the background in this area, didn't really like the setting of this area. But I chose the setting of where I was going to record as I was about to record. Thinking about where you're going to film prior to you even doing any of the filming, practice different spaces, see how the lighting's going to work. I finally ended up with this space right here and it was right in front of me the entire time. But figuring out your setup would be definitely beneficial. think about things around you, practice around with your mic to see if there's any echo in the space. Practice prior to production. So practice rounds, practice talks, play around with it. I'd have my cue cards and I'm like, okay, welcome. Instead of just like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing. I have the notes. I have this. Let's start it now. So then you already have gone through some of those hiccups and some of those hurdles prior to having to fix them in post production.
And where did you go to learn more about post-production? Because I know that people come to this course not necessarily experts in the software.
YouTube University, there was definitely sources that I've had from our course because you definitely give us good notes that I was able to look at. So analyzing the notes from the pages that we had, some YouTube notes for like immediate things that I had wanted. So the combination of both.
We talked about vulnerability. We talked about putting yourself out there. You put yourself out there in a way that many people often don't.
In the recording process, whenever I did my last episode, the fourth episode, I did it about imposter syndrome. And it really originally wasn't going to be the topic. It was something that I discovered in the midst of creating episode 3 because I was really struggling. It wasn't an interview, it was solo. And I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? Like, I'm really struggling. And as I mentioned earlier, like speaking with friends and family kind of did bring out different conversations. And I was able to erupt where this inner critic was happening. And I said I was suffering from like imposter syndrome. So I took multiple takes from my attempts to record. And in them, there was one that I was just like, I was stopping. I had tried doing it. I had tried recording for the umpteenth time. It didn't work. And I started crying. The camera was still rolling. Camera was still rolling. I think I even recorded my conversation that I had with the Timely Care person just in full tears. But it made great content because it gave a glimpse into what I was speaking about and sharing the fact that I'm not just talking about this because I just did the research on it. I'm talking about it from personal experience as well. And I think those bloopers and those raw moments can definitely make for great content. Definitely make for great content. So if anybody sees episode 4, you're definitely just going to see me in tears, but not for too long. It definitely just added the perspective to show that what I'm talking about is not something that is always pretty. I definitely give you the raw, real take of things. So I think that authenticity and those raw moments added and boosted my credibility in what I'm speaking about. Cause like I promise, I'm not just giving y'all some random situation, just some Google definition. I'm giving you what I went through in the midst of this topic, how I'm going to figure it out, and also ways that I overcame it, and also research ways that you can overcome it. So it's coming from personal experience and the scientific way. So I was able to give that with a little bit of drama.
I know that people appreciated that and responded well to that because it's not often you see an expert actually struggling with the thing that they're an expert in. And one of the valuable things about the podcasting format is you have that opportunity to display your struggles and not just your expertise.
I think that's what, with a podcast, it being a week by week thing, is like, yes, you can have that setup where it's like you want to have it be well produced and something that does have a structure to it. But having that vulnerability is definitely something that can help you connect with an audience and connect to any viewer. So it's not just like, okay, yes, I have my fancy mic, hear what I have to say. It's like, okay, I'm struggling with something. She's not making it look all glitz and glam on this camera right now. Let me hear what's going on.
And I know that people who struggle with all sorts of things, including imposter syndrome, like you said, and belonging and feelings of belonging and social connection, and all those things that are maybe sometimes more difficult in an online learning environment, really resonated with that kind of content. Do you have any advice for people struggling with those same things?
When it comes down to struggling with those things, I was able to navigate and find other resources because I think whenever you're in those spaces, it feels real easy to be like, okay, I'm all alone in this because you're the one dealing with it by yourself in that moment. But it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. Definitely like what I did, I connected with other people that were creative, other people that struggled to make things or had issues. And it was like, okay, I'm really struggling with this. It may not be something that they know exactly about, but there's people that have struggled to do things before and they've had to overcome it. Definitely look to people around you, resources around you. I Googled a lot, YouTubed a lot. There's plenty of things out there that can match what you're feeling and match the struggle that you have, but they can provide a sense of a solution. They can give you a solution. Don't sit in that stagnant loneliness and the stagnant pity party, for lack of better words. There's a solution out there, and it's something that you really want to achieve and accomplish. Use the resources that you know you have.
I know that in your continuing of the show, you will help people. What's your next episode going to be about?
Now that I was able to navigate how I want to do my pre-production, my post-production, I'm going to start reaching out to different creatives. It's definitely put me in a space where it's like, okay, I like this field. I love this topic. I definitely want it to expand and grow. I have my camera. I know my setup now. I know how to do it. So now I want to go out there and put myself out there in more spaces where I can interact with more creatives and make it more on the fly, but then also I do my research on things. Like I want it to be something like I'm networking with people within this space and getting to know each person in a conversational setting. So I think maybe my next episode, I did meet a sushi chef. So that's a different kind of creative, a culinary creative. So I think my next episode might be with him, seeing how he dives into the food field and how being in a fast paced sushi environment, how that is, and fine dining, being in a different space. I may add, I'm an African American woman. There's different ways I can blend things into things, diving into different creatives. I've done solo episodes. I think I still will do solo episodes, but I believe my next episode, I'm probably going to meet another creative and dive into their creative processes because I've learned a lot from myself in the solo episodes. I definitely want to have another episode where I'm learning from somebody else again.
And I know that you can leverage your podcast for your professional life. Have you envisioned how you might do that?
I have, because this is definitely something I will add to my portfolio in my resume, Adobe Audition experience, podcasting experience, mic experience. I want to be a creative director. I've always, like I said, I love the creative process and I see how different businesses and brands can benefit from different ways of creativity, whether it's like you would the way a set is set up, the way that someone is dressed, the mic levels, the lighting. Like I'll see different productions and I'm like, they could have moved the camera down just a little bit. I want to be that person. It's like, oh no, you can do this. Let's just put this here. I have that eye for detail. So I think having this, knowing how to navigate framing and audio and lighting, that's definitely something that would be so beneficial for my career path. So it's something I can say I've done before and I can apply it in other spaces, not only just for myself.
As a digital creator and storyteller, what kind of stories do you want to tell the most?
Life stories. I love the stories of life. Life can be so beautiful. It can be tragic. It can be emotional. Life is the most amazing story to tell. So, and everyone has different life stories, life experiences, things that led them to be the person that they are, make the art that they make. I love those conversations because it taps you. I want to get into the minds of a creative.
Do you have any parting advice for people who want to start their own podcast?
Find something that you can talk about for ages, even if it's just by yourself or with somebody else. Find a topic that would resonate with you, but then also find something that would still reach an audience. Because there are some things that are just uniquely authentic and original and fun to ourselves. But being able to find that common middle of something that you love and something that you would love to share with others that you love, that would be great to speak about. And be authentic, be raw. You don't have to post yourself crying the way that I did. Not everybody's comfortable doing that. But find some fun in the bloopers. Find some fun in those funny moments. Those funny moments make great content. So just be yourself. People are going to love you.
The humanity of authenticity always beats the perfectionist.
Absolutely. Yes.
Georgina, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your wisdom. We appreciate you.
So much for having me.